Hey guys, welcome back to the Unfiltered Political Lens. Let's jump right into it as we always do. Glad to see you're here. New York City stands at a defining moment in modern history with Zohran Mamdani at the center of political, economic, and cultural debate that is spreading far beyond the five boroughs. Reporters describe his leadership as bold and necessary and long overdue, while critics warn the direction of his policies could create instability if not carefully managed. The truth lies in understanding the real-world implications of these policies rather than relying on exaggerated claims and dismissive features or narratives. Before diving deeper, it's essential to clarify leadership roles that are often misunderstood in public discourse. Mamdani serves as a mayor responsible for city governance, while Kathy Hochul oversees the statewide policy and budget decisions that also impact the New York City and surrounding areas. Confusion between these roles has contributed to misinformation and misplaced accountability, making it harder for citizens to evaluate the policy outcomes accurately. At the core of Mamdani's agenda is a transformative vision centered on affordability, economic redistribution, and an expanded public services. His proposals include rent freezes, increased taxation on high-income earners, publicly funded childcare, and expanded transit initiatives. These ideas reflect a broader ideological shift toward a more interventionist role for government in shaping economic outcomes. Supporters argue that such measures are necessary to address the deep structural inequalities that have developed over the decades. New York City has become one of the most expensive places to live in the world, with housing costs, child care expenses, and basic necessities pushing middle and working class residents out of action. Is not optional but essential to preserving the city's diversity in the workforce. However, the critics raise concerns about how these policies could impact the economic engine that sustains the city. New York relies heavily on a relatively small percentage of high-income individuals and large corporations for a significant share of this tax revenue. If those taxpayers reduce their presence or investments in response to policy changes, the ripple effect could be substantial. One of the most immediate areas of concern is the housing market, where policy changes can produce both short-term and long-term consequences. The rent freezes may help tenants stay in their homes, but they can also reduce the incentives for landlords to maintain properties or invest in new development. Over time, this could lead to a tighter housing supply, which paradoxically would drive up costs in unregulated segments of the market. The administration's approach to taxation further intensifies this debate. Proposals to increase taxes on wealthy residents and impose new levies of luxury properties and to generate revenue and address the inequality. The critics argue that such measures could discourage investments and trigger legal disputes and contribute to the capital flight, particularly in the city, competes globally for the wealth and business activity. Fiscal sustainability is another major point of contention, especially given New York City's existing budget challenges. With a multi-billion-dollar deficit already in place, the addition of large-scale spending programs raises questions about the long-term financial stability. And while the supporters believe that increased revenue and economic growth will offset the cost, skeptics warn that the projections may not fully account for behavioral responses from taxpayers and businesses. Public safety law enforcement policies represent one of the most emotionally charged aspects of the debate. Changes in policing strategies, resources allocation, and enforcement priorities can have immediate and visible impacts on your daily life. The critics argue that reducing productive policing or alternative enforcement standards could also weaken deterrence and lead to increases in certain types of crime. The concerns are not necessarily about a dramatic surge in major crimes, but rather a gradual increase in low-level offenses that affect quality of life. Incidents such as theft, vandalism, and the public disorder, which can accumulate over time, shaping how the residents perceive the safety in their neighborhoods. Even small shifts in these patterns can influence businesses, operations, tourism, and community engagement. Another critical issue is how the justice system handles repeat of offenders and minor crimes. Police that emphasize the alternative to incarceration are intended to reduce systemic inequalities, but they must be carefully balanced with the accountability mechanisms. Without sufficient oversight and resources, there is a risk of gap in the enforcement which could emerge, leading to frustration among the residents and law enforcement alike. Emergency response infrastructure also plays a crucial role in maintaining the public safety. Adjustments to funding or staffing levels for police, fire, and emergency medical services can directly impact the response times, and effectiveness. In a densely populated city, even slight delays in emergency services can have significant consequences for the public's health and safety. Another layer will be immigration. The complexity to the current landscape, New York City has experienced a significant influx of migrants, placing pressure on housing, shelters, and police services. While immigration policy is largely determined at the federal level, the possibility of managing its local impact falls heavily on city leadership, creating both logistical and financial challenges. Like economic policy and public safety, which are deeply interconnected, and changes in one area often influence the outcomes in others. If budget constraints lead to reduced funding, the essential services, including law enforcement, the effects can be devastating across multiple sectors. Conversely, strong economic performance can provide the resources needed to maintain and improve public safety infrastructure. Long-term financial decisions, such as restructuring of delaying pension obligations, further complicate the picture. While such measures can provide short-term budget relief and may increase liabilities in the future, creating additional pressures on city finances. If these obligations grow too large, they could force difficult trade-offs in spending priorities. Also, the supporters of Mamdani policies argue that many criticisms underestimate the potential benefit of a major equitable and service-oriented approach. Investments in education, housing, healthcare, and community programs are also seen as a proactive measure that can reduce the crime and improve the quality of life over time. From this perspective, public safety is not only achieved not just through enforcement, but through opportunity and stability. Historical context is essential when evaluating the current conditions in New York City. The city has faced significant challenges in the past, including fiscal crises of the 70s and periods of elevated crime rates. In each case, a combination of policy adjustments, economic shifts, and the community's resilience contributed to recovery and growth. Today, the challenges, while serious, are part of a broader pattern of the urban evolution rather than evidence of inevitable decline. Many of the issues began debated: housing, affordability, economic inequality, and public safety, which have been building for decades. The current administration policies are one attempt among many to address these long-standing problems. The perception plays a powerful role in shaping the city's trajectory. If residents and businesses believe that conditions are deteriorating, their behavior may reinforce that perception, leading to the reduced investments and engagements. Conversely, confidence in the city's future can drive growth and innovation even in the face of the challenges. The narratives of systemic downfall is not supported by credible evidence, but it reflects a genuine anxiety about change and uncertain outcomes. Policies that significantly alter the taxation, housing, and public safety frameworks carry inherent risks, particularly in cities as complex and interconnected as New York is. The key question is not whether the change will occur, but rather it will be managed effectively. For everyday residents, the impact of these policies will be felt in practical terms. Housing costs, access to service, job opportunities, and neighborhood safety will shape daily experiences and long-term. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Unfiltered Political Lens. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.